there, and Happy New Year. Welcome to a new year, whether you're doing resolutions, words of the year, intentions, whatever that is. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season and maybe you're ready to do some different things for yourself this year and or stay the same. Either way is cool. So I wanted to invite you into this my undieting world this month because this month can be really loud with diet culture. And I wanted to instead plant some seeds around how you might be able to undiet your life, maybe set some undiet intentions, undiet resolutions, if that's your thing. And so this whole month, I wanted to offer some free resources to help you get started with this, get to know each other a little bit more, and hopefully set you up for 2023 being the year that you don't engage with diets anymore and body shame. So I was thinking about it this week, and you know how when you've been doing diets, you've been doing plans, Mondays are always the key day, the day that you get back on track, the day that you've fallen off the wagon on the weekends and now you're getting back on track on Monday. And so, any Monday can be that way, but particularly when it follows a holiday or the start of a new month. And this week, we had three double whammies. So it was a Monday, like any Monday, but it was a Monday also with back to back holiday weekends. And it was the first Monday of a month, January. And it was the first Monday of a new year. That's so much pressure on that Monday. And if you were feeling it like, I got to get myself together. I got to get my food, my health, my exercise. There are so many things I want to do differently, better, new, whatever this year. And you were feeling that pull and that pressure on Monday. Totally get it. Totally normal. And welcome to a new year. So if you're feeling that, but you're also feeling like, well, I don't want to do what I've done before because either you saw some benefit from it, some results from it, or you didn't. And that's frustrating. And so you're like, well, I want to do something different. I don't want to get back on the same track that I've always done. I want to get back onto a different track. And so that's why I'm so glad that you're here. You're taking advantage of watching this short video today. And I'd love to explain to you some of these free resources that I have going on this month. So first of all, are these lives? I'll be doing them weekly. And each week, I'm going to go through a couple of the principles of intuitive eating and particularly how they relate to women in midlife. So, if that's you, if you're in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe you're experiencing symptoms of perimenopause, menopause, and maybe you've heard about intuitive eating, but there's a lot of information out there about intuitive eating and even on social media, but it's not as specific to midlife. And there are some, I think, midlife nuances that go on with understanding how intuitive eating works during this season of life. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to pick two principles each week and go through them here live, whether you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on the Savor Food and Body YouTube channel. And then I'm also going to invite you to attend free drop-in office hour sessions every Friday. We'll start on January 13th, and there will be a link below wherever you're watching this in order to get the link to join these free office hour sessions. And it's a great time to come and ask questions about intuitive eating, nutrition for midlife, maybe flesh out some things, new things you want to try this year, or maybe some things you did last year were great and you want to continue with them. Just a space for us to come together and hopefully me to support you, answering your questions in just a free community sort of way. So again, there'll be a link below where you're watching this to get the special invitation for those free office hours. So without further ado, let's jump into today's training on intuitive eating for midlife and take a look at a couple of the intuitive eating principles. So Intuitive eating was created by two dietitians, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. They co-created it in the mid 1990s. So it's been around for a while. This is not new. And as you'll learn as we go through these principles, your body's really been doing it since you were born, and you've had a lot of years of unlearning how to be an intuitive eater. We'll get more into that. So while these principles, there are 10 of them, but they're not meant to go in any particular order other than rejecting the diet mentality is helpful if that's first. And gentle nutrition, although I like to kind of sprinkle gentle nutrition throughout the principles, especially if for folks in midlife, but generally gentle nutrition is talked about in a deeper focus towards the end. And there's a method to that madness. However, the way I'm going to go through the rest of the 8 principles in between is going to be more in the order that I typically use when I'm working with clients. And I do this for a couple of reasons. One, I think that the principles, how I'm going to pair them up, um, seem to be more tangible in doing them in the order that I offer my clients. And I think they relate even more to the midlife conversation too. So if you have read Intuitive Eating or you've picked up any of other Evelyn's or Elise's books and you see these principles listed out in a different order, it's totally fine. It's all okay. I've done supervision with Evelyn and she said, just go in the order that seems right for who you're working with at the time. So that's what we're going to do over this week and the next 3 weeks too. So today, I'd like for us just to start with that reject the diet mentality principle and make peace with food. So in my mind and in working with clients, I see these two pair really well together. So rejecting the diet mentality this is probably the best time of year to do that, to be honest. Maybe the most challenging, but also the most poignant time to do it too, because there's so much messaging around why you might want to engage in such and such diet or this health wellness protocol, whatever it may be. And so this can be a great time to practice and develop those skills of pushing back on that and resisting that diet mentality. So what I often offer my clients as like a really tangible activity to do is to just make a list of all of the messages that you receive, either directly at you or indirectly at you, about health, healthy eating, wellness, exercise, the way your body should look, the way aging should look, the way you should get through perimenopause, if you want to even go into that really specific midlife season. And just making a list of all of the phrases or words that you've heard that inform how you think about food, health, your body, movement, all of those things. And in doing this, one, it's a brain dump. My clients are always hearing me say, like, get out of our heads and into our bodies. And when we can do that brain dump in that list type form, it takes the pressure off of us and all of those thoughts bouncing around in our heads. So I'm a big fan of making lists. Doesn't need to be a whole journal entry. Just make a list. Just jot down some of the messages that you've received that relate to this diet mentality. Now, a word of caution here, or even more interest for exploration, is especially in midlife, we get a lot of messages around, watch your blood sugar, watch your cholesterol, how's your calcium intake for bone density, worried about metabolic health as it relates to heart disease. You might be concerned with some family history of diabetes or cancer or something like that. So I want you to become more aware of how do these general health messages, and they may be things that you generally want to be aware of and find healthy ways of supporting for yourself, but how might those messages also get really slippery into more of that diet mentality? Now, what do I mean by diet mentality? Diet mentality is defined usually as some sort of parameters around eating, could be restriction or could be rules. The whole intermittent fasting thing, where there's a rule around like you can only eat during this time window. That's embedding diet mentality around I can't eat outside of this window. So that might also relate to certain types of foods. Oh, I can't eat carbs because my blood sugar is trending up a little bit. None of which there's great science behind, by the way. And so thinking about that diet mentality, it's really creating rules in your head that are trying to govern how you relate to food. That's really what diet mentality is. And it's created by all those messages. So as you're doing your list making of all the messages that you've received recently or over the years about food, your body, and health, then you might also start to just kind of intuitively notice like, oh, these messages have informed this diet mentality that I have in my brain. And this is a big important point to this activity. We're not doing it to shame you or judge you or say you've been doing something wrong all these years. Absolutely not. You will hear me say over and over again that this is not a place for guilt and shame. It is a place for curiosity and exploration and connecting dots and saying, oh, it makes so much sense. Look at all these messages that you've been bombarded with over the years. Of course, you think X, Y, and Z about food and health and your weight. Of course, you do. That's not your fault. That's just the messaging you've been given. So, a lot of intuitive eating, particularly around this to reject the diet mentality, is all about pushing back against those messages. But we don't know what to push back against unless you spend some time reflecting on, like, oh, those are the messages that really land for me. If it's helpful for you to assign where you heard those messages, that's cool. But again, we're not necessarily here to judge where they came from. So, whatever works best for you. Now, the second principle that I want us to explore today is make peace with food. So, you might get this sense of kind of freedom, liberation, as you go through these messages, identifying the diet mentality that those messages have created for you. And you might get this sense of like, F you to those messages and get this sense of like, I can eat whatever I want to. I'm gonna go get the M&Ms, the chips, the donuts. Like, who cares if it was already the holidays? Like, I'm gonna keep partying like it's 1999 when it comes to food. And that is also totally normal. So if you get that sense coming up for you of like, oh, I've got this newfound freedom with food, I want to invite you to engage with that. Definitely stay connected to that. If it feels a little bit chaotic with food and you go and start grabbing all of the foods that you've deemed off limits in previous years, or you're afraid that you'll eat the whole bag, the whole sack, the whole container, whatever, it's okay. That is part of making peace with food. Part of making peace with food is allowing yourself to have those foods in your house, in your pantry, and allowing yourself to have those foods when you want them and not denying yourself. Now, this could be a good opportunity and a good place to, as you're hearing this, think about this and maybe consider coming to office hours next Friday on the 13th of January. Sign up, get yourself in there with the link below this video, because this making peace with food part can be scary, can be super nuanced, with whatever experience you're coming in with, whether you've had an eating disorder in the past or just a lot of chronic dieting, severe disordered eating. And again, there's no shame. That is all part of your body story and your relationship with food story. But I also recognize that when that is part of your past, as it is for so many of us, hearing this make peace with food, allow yourself to have all the foods that you have felt maybe unsafe around for all these years, that can feel super scary. And it can feel super scary that you'll get out of control with those foods. So I'm going to invite you again to come to those free office hours and let's talk through that, because making peace with food is a really fundamental part of intuitive eating. And it's not something that's done overnight either. We're talking about this for 15, 20 minutes today, and you listening to it, and you going and practicing it after what I've taught today doesn't mean you're going to get it overnight. You're going to feel that euphoria of like, woohoo, party time. I get to have whatever foods I want to. And you're also going to feel oh crap, what did she say? Like, I've finished the bag of M&Ms. What? I shouldn't be doing this. Why is a dietitian telling me to do this? It's okay. It's all part of the process. And as we go forward in the following weeks, we're going to talk about hunger. We're going to talk about satisfaction, how to find those in your body if you've spent years following diet mentality and food rules. We're going to talk about fullness. We're also going to talk about what do we do about that emotional eating piece? The number of times that I've heard clients say, oh, I'm a super emotional eater. Well, we all are. And using food to express emotions is totally normal and totally human. And I also understand that it can get uncomfortable at times. So we are going to talk about how do we navigate our emotions with kindness, and how do we have a variety of coping tools and not just food, but food can still be a coping tool in your toolbox, but we need a variety of tools. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into what do we do about exercise? If you're someone like I was that, excuse me, that exercise was my coping tool of feeling like I was out of control with food, then developing a different and healthier relationship with exercise and moving your body is also going to become an important part of learning how to do intuitive eating in midlife. And then, of course, we will also be talking about gentle nutrition throughout this whole process, and even in more depth in the final week, so in 3 weeks from today in these sessions. So I hope that these sessions are going to be helpful for you. You are welcome to ask questions anytime. Again, I'm going to really encourage you to come to those free drop-in office hours where we can go through anything that will have happened from the training that week. And the link to that is below. You can also drop me a note at alpinenutrition.org/contact, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have there too, or share your story, share your thoughts. I'd love to hear where you're coming from into this new year and into your relationship with food in your body. So with that, I will look forward to seeing you next week. These live trainings are going to be on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And they will also be uploaded onto the Savor Food and Body YouTube channel, so you can go and watch them anytime. And it's wonderful to spend the first week of the new year with you. And I can't wait to see you next Wednesday, and hopefully also in the office hours coming up on January 13th. So for now, enjoy the rest of your week, savoring food in your body. Take care.